The Empire unearths a lost civilization where humans still thrive. The weeks following the battle were strange and tense. The disabled Imperial ships were towed carefully to human repair facilities, orbiting the outer planets. Every crew member was given medical attention, comfortable quarters, and most surprisingly, complete freedom to move around the stations. Guards were present but never threatening. They seemed more like guides than jailers. The Imperial crews reacted in different ways. Some remained angry and defiant, clinging to their belief in Imperial superiority despite all evidence. Others were curious, beginning to ask questions and explore human society. Many were simply confused, their entire worldview shattered by what they had experienced. Velthar was released from his confinement and found himself in an unexpected role. The younger officers who had led the mutiny sought him out for guidance. They had heard his testimony before the battle and wanted to understand what he had learned during his time with humans. He found himself becoming a bridge between two civilizations, explaining human ways to Valorians and Valorian concerns to humans. Crix and Thulmar helped in their own ways. The science officer was fascinated by human technology and spent his days in research facilities, learning and sharing knowledge. The crystalline navigator worked with human teachers, helping to develop educational materials that could be understood by Imperial citizens. They had fully committed to their new home. 6 months after the confrontation, an Imperial delegation arrived. Leading them was Velthar, promoted to ambassador by reformist factions that had gained power in the wake of the fleet's defeat. With him came representatives from all 12 member species of the Empire, including Crix and Thulmar as advisors. Admiral General Krethnor was not among them. He had been quietly retired, his reputation destroyed by his catastrophic failure. The delegation was brought to Serum, the human capital world, where Chancellor Doyen waited in the Hall of Unity. The building was magnificent, built from materials that seemed to glow with inner light. Its architecture combined elements from dozens of human cultures across their long history, a reminder that diversity had made them strong. The negotiations that followed lasted for months. Doyen presented his vision not of human dominance over the Empire, but of transformation. He proposed the gradual reformation of the Valorian Empire into the Galactic Cooperative, a true federation of equal partners. In exchange for this peaceful transition, humans would share their technology, their knowledge, and their assistance. But there were conditions. The Empire must end all wars of conquest. It must recognize the sovereignty of all species within its borders. It must reform its government to give every member species equal voice. It must acknowledge the crimes of its past and work toward repair, rather than continuing to deny history. The debate was fierce. Conservative elements within the delegation argued that this would mean the end of the Empire. Doyen agreed. That was exactly the point. The Empire as it existed was a machine of oppression that had to be dismantled. But what would replace it could be something better. Something that honored the dignity of all species. Hana, who had transitioned from defense coordinator to head of human diplomatic services, worked tirelessly with the delegation. She organized meetings between Imperial representatives and human citizens. She arranged tours of human worlds where visitors could see how a society without hierarchy or conquest could function. She facilitated difficult conversations about history, about hurt, about hope. Not everyone was convinced. Some delegates remained hostile, certain this was all a trap. A few even attempted sabotage, trying to steal human technology or assassinate key figures. Every attempt failed, not through violence but through human surveillance technology that detected threats before they materialized. The saboteurs were not executed or even imprisoned. They were given counseling and education, treated as people who needed help rather than enemies who needed punishment. Slowly, the tide began to turn. Younger delegates especially began to see the possibility of a different future. They met Imperial citizens who had requested asylum, who spoke glowingly of their new lives. They saw human children learning beside the children of former Imperial subjects, all treated equally. They experienced a society where your value was not determined by your strength or status, but by your contribution to the community. One particularly powerful moment came when a delegation of former Imperial subjects addressed the assembly. These were beings from species that had been conquered by the Empire, forced to serve as laborers and soldiers. They spoke of generations of oppression, of cultures destroyed, of languages forgotten, but they did not speak with pure hatred. Instead, they echoed what humans had taught them, the possibility of forgiveness if followed by genuine change. An elderly member of a species conquered 3 centuries ago stood before the assembly. Her people had been reduced from billions to millions by imperial pacification. She looked at the Valorian delegates with eyes that had seen too much suffering. "I hate what your empire did to my people," she said, her voice shaking but strong. "But I do not hate you. You were raised in a system that taught you conquest was honor. You did not create that system, though you participated in it. Now you have a chance to break the cycle, to build something new. Do not waste this opportunity. Do not force us to watch another generation suffer." Her words left the assembly in heavy silence. Even the most conservative delegates could not dismiss the pain in her voice or the wisdom in her words. After 11 months of negotiation, debate, and gradual transformation of thinking, the moment came. The Imperial Council called for a vote. The proposal was clear. Accept Chancellor Doyen's framework and transform the Valorian Empire into the Galactic Cooperative, or reject it and face isolation as the rest of the galaxy moved forward. The vote was not unanimous. Nearly a third of the delegates voted against change, preferring the old ways even knowing they could not be sustained. But the majority voted for transformation. The Valorian Empire officially became the Galactic Cooperative, a federation of autonomous regions united by shared principles rather than military force. The change did not happen overnight. Implementation would take decades, perhaps generations. There would be setbacks, resistance, and struggles. But the direction was set. The cooperative's charter guaranteed rights to all species, established mechanisms for peaceful conflict resolution, and created educational systems designed to promote cooperation over competition. The Taihua Republic remained independent but engaged. Humans served as mediators, teachers, and partners in the cooperative's development. They shared their technology carefully, ensuring it was used for building rather than for creating new forms of dominance. Human warships patrolled cooperative space not as conquerors but as protectors, ready to defend against external threats while preventing internal oppression. 5 years after first contact, Velthar stood in the same garden where Chancellor Doyen had first shown him the truth. Jiwan was beside him, no longer just a guide but a friend and colleague. They watched ships from 100 worlds moving across the sky, each one representing a species that was learning to live as partners rather than subjects. "I used to think strength meant the power to dominate," Velthar said quietly. "To conquer, to control, to force others to obey. That was what the Empire taught me." "And now?" Jiwan asked. "Now I understand that true strength is much harder. It is the courage to change when you realize you are wrong. It is the patience to build rather than destroy. It is the wisdom to know that lifting others up does not diminish you. It makes everyone stronger." He turned to look at her. "Your people showed us that. You could have destroyed the Empire easily. Instead, you saved us from ourselves." Jiwan smiled. "We remembered what it was like to be lost. We remembered needing someone to show us a better way. How could we refuse to do the same for others?" Doyen had retired from active politics, though his influence remained strong. He spent his days in this garden, tending plants and meeting with visitors who sought his wisdom. Today he sat on a bench with a young human boy named Suho, who was visiting with his school class. "Grandfather Doyen," the boy asked, using the honorific that all human children used for their elders, "is the galaxy safe now?" The old chancellor smiled, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "No, Suho. Safety is not a destination. It is a choice we make every day. We chose compassion over cruelty. We chose cooperation over competition. We chose to build rather than destroy. As long as we keep making those choices, we will be all right. But what if someone makes bad choices?" The boy persisted. "Then we help them make better ones. We teach them, guide them, show them that there is another way. Violence is easy, Suho. Anyone can destroy. But building something that lasts, creating a society where everyone can thrive, that takes real strength. That is the work we must never stop doing." The boy thought about this for a moment, then nodded seriously. "I understand, grandfather. I will help make good choices." "That is all any of us can do," Doyen said softly. A year later, a joint human cooperative exploration mission launched toward the galactic core. The crew was mixed, representing dozens of species working together as equals. The Empire unearths a lost civilization. where humans still thrive. The Tewa Republic mobilized with a calm efficiency that was somehow more frightening than panic would have been. Velthar watched from the command center as humans prepared for potential war. There was no shouting, no chaos, only quiet purpose. Citizens evacuated from border stations in orderly fashion. Defense platforms activated silently. The fleet moved into defensive positions with perfect coordination. Chancellor Doyen stood at the center of the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching Imperial fleet. 200 warships, the largest battle group the Valorian Empire could assemble quickly. Leading them was Admiral General Krethnor, whose reputation for ruthless efficiency was known throughout Imperial space. A human diplomat named Hyejin sat at a communication station, broadcasting messages on all frequencies toward the Imperial fleet. Her voice was patient and calm as she explained the situation, offered dialogue, and pleaded for peaceful resolution. Over and over she transmitted, showing footage of the human cities, proof of their civilization, evidence that this was not empty space to be claimed but sovereign territory to be respected. The Imperial fleet ignored every message. Velthar felt torn in two. He had spent weeks learning about human society, seeing things that challenged everything he believed. Krix and Thulmar had already made their choice. They formally requested asylum, recognizing that the empire they served was built on lies and oppression. But Velthar could not let go so easily. Duty, honor, and a lifetime of training pulled at him. Chancellor Doyen approached him quietly. "You can return to them, Commander. We will send you in a transport with a message of peace. We hope your testimony will prevent bloodshed, but you must know that they may not listen. Pride can blind even the wisest beings." Velthar looked at the elderly Chancellor, seeing genuine concern in his eyes. "Why do you care what happens to them? They came here to conquer you. They would destroy everything you have built if they could." "Because we remember being lost and afraid," Doyen replied simply. "We remember making mistakes and needing others to show us a better way. If we respond to violence with more violence, we become the very thing we opposed. We must try to save them from themselves, even if they do not yet know they need saving." The commander made his decision. "I will go. I will tell them what I have learned. Perhaps they will listen." An hour later, Velthar sat in a small transport approaching the Imperial fleet. His mind raced with everything he had seen and learned. How could he explain it in a way that would make them understand? How could he describe a society so different from anything the Empire knew? The transport was allowed to dock with the fleet's flagship. Velthar walked through familiar corridors that now felt strange after his time with humans. He was brought before Admiral General Krethnor in the command chamber. The old warrior was exactly as Velthar remembered from previous encounters. Cold, efficient, and utterly certain of Imperial superiority. "Commander Velthar." Krethnor's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "You have been missing for over a month. We assumed you were being held prisoner by whatever primitive colony exists in this nebula. I am pleased to see you alive." "They are not primitives, sir," Velthar said quickly. "They are humans, an advanced civilization that has been hidden here for 5,000 years. Their technology far exceeds ours. Their society is peaceful and prosperous. They do not want war." Krethnor's eyes narrowed. "Humans are extinct, Commander. You have clearly been compromised by whatever propaganda these colonists fed you. You will undergo psychological evaluation immediately." "Sir, please listen," Velthar pleaded. "I have seen their cities, their technology, their military capabilities. If we attack them, the fleet will be destroyed. They have weapons that can disable our ships without firing a shot. They have stealth technology we cannot detect. They have been watching the Empire for centuries and know everything about us while we know nothing about them." The Admiral turned to his security officers. "Take the commander to medical bay. He has clearly suffered mental trauma during his captivity." To Velthar, he said coldly, "You will remain in confinement until we have dealt with this situation and can properly evaluate your condition." As guards led him away, Velthar shouted desperately, "They do not want to fight. They are offering peace. Do not do this." But Krethnor was not listening. The Admiral had already dismissed Velthar's words as the ramblings of a broken mind. He turned to his tactical officers. "Prepare for full assault. We will demonstrate to these colonists what happens when someone challenges the Valorian Empire." In his locked quarters, Velthar could only watch helplessly through the viewport as the Imperial fleet formed into battle formations. 200 ships, the pride of the Empire, moving toward human space with weapons charged and shields raised. He felt sick knowing what was about to happen. The fleet crossed into the inner system, sensors sweeping for targets. Then Krethnor received his first surprise. Long-range scans revealed not one defended world but 12 habitable planets, dozens of major orbital stations, and hundreds of defensive platforms. The system was not a small colony but a fully developed civilization. Impossible, the Admiral muttered, but he did not slow down. All ships maintain formation. Prepare to engage defensive satellites. We will neutralize their defenses and force their surrender. That was when the second surprise hit. Human ships began appearing on sensors. Not dozens, but hundreds, sleek warships that seemed to materialize from nowhere, having been completely invisible moments before. They took up defensive positions around the inner planets with casual precision. An officer spoke nervously. "Sir, I am counting 500 enemy vessels. They are all broadcasting the same message, requesting that we stand down and enter negotiations." Krethnor laughed harshly. "They think numbers intimidate us? We have fought against greater odds. All ships weapons free, fire at will." The Imperial fleet opened fire, unleashing enough destructive power to level continents. Bright beams of energy and streams of missiles filled space with deadly light. It should have been a devastating first strike. Not a single shot reached its target. The human ships absorbed or deflected every attack with shields that seemed to operate on principles the Empire did not understand. Imperial sensors screamed warnings as the attack simply vanished against human defensive technology. Then the humans responded, and the real terror began. Human warships moved faster than Imperial sensors could properly track. They appeared next to Imperial vessels, fired single precise shots that disabled weapons and engines without destroying the ships, and disappeared again before any return fire could be attempted. One by one, Imperial ships went dark and began drifting. Not destroyed, not even significantly damaged, just completely disabled, their weapons offline and engines dead. The crews were alive and unharmed, but their vessels were helpless. Panic spread through the fleet. Officers shouted reports of impossible technology, of ships that could not be targeted, of weapons that passed through shields as if they did not exist. In 30 minutes, half the Imperial fleet was disabled. In an hour, 3/4 of the ships were drifting hulks with living crews but dead systems. Admiral Minho's face appeared on every Imperial ship's communication screen simultaneously. This feat alone should have been impossible, but it demonstrated complete dominance of all communication systems. His voice was firm but not cruel. "Admiral General Krethnor, this has gone far enough. We do not want to destroy you. We want you to evolve. Stand down, or we will be forced to disable every ship in your fleet, not with your deaths but with your complete humiliation. The choice is yours." Krethnor's face twisted with rage and disbelief. Everything he knew, everything he had built his life on, was crumbling before his eyes. Unable to accept defeat or admit error, he made a final desperate choice. "All remaining ships ramming speed. If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we will tear their ships apart with our hulls. For the Empire." A few ships followed his order, driven by loyalty or desperation. They accelerated toward the nearest human vessels, intending to collide and destroy them in mutual annihilation. The humans did not flee. They simply disabled the charging ships with such precision that the crews were knocked unconscious but unharmed. The vessel's momentum arrested without impact. On Krethnor's own flagship, something unexpected happened. Young officers who had served under Velthar in the past, who had heard his testimony before he was confined, made a choice. They overpowered the Admiral's guards and took control of the bridge. They shut down the flagship's weapons and broadcast a message of surrender to the human fleet. Similar mutinies occurred on several other ships. Officers and crew members who could see the truth, who recognized that continuing the battle was suicide and dishonor combined, chose to stop fighting. Within minutes, the last of the Imperial resistance collapsed. The battle ended with 0 deaths. Every Imperial crew member was alive, though every Imperial ship was disabled and drifting. It was a victory so complete and so bloodless that it seemed impossible. But there it was, displayed on every sensor across both fleets. The Empire unearths a lost civilization, where humans still thrive. The days that followed were the strangest of Velthar's life. The Valorian crew was separated into small groups, each assigned human guides who would show them different aspects of the Tehwa Republic. Velthar expected prison cells and interrogation rooms, but instead he was given comfortable quarters with a view of the city, and a guide who introduced herself as Jiwan. Jiwan was a historian, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a patient manner. She wore simple clothing and carried herself with quiet confidence. On their first morning together, she took Velthar to a museum dedicated to human history. The museum was beautiful and sad at the same time. Holographic displays showed Earth as it once was, a blue-green jewel covered in water and forests. Then came the images of war, pollution, and slow death. Velthar watched as humans nearly destroyed themselves before finally uniting to save what was left of their world. "We almost died by our own hands," Jiwan explained, her voice soft with old grief. "We fought wars over resources, over beliefs, over pieces of land. We poisoned our air and water. We killed entire species without thought. For a long time, we were the worst thing that ever happened to Earth. But you survived," Velthar said, unable to hide his curiosity. "Yes. When we realized what we were doing, we changed. It was not easy. It took generations, but we learned to work together, to share, to think beyond our own immediate needs." Jiwan moved to another display showing massive ships leaving Earth. "When we finally reached the stars, we thought we had learned our lessons. We thought the galaxy would welcome us." The display changed to show the early Valorian Empire, much smaller than it was now but already aggressive and expanding. Velthar recognized the ships from historical records. He saw them attacking human colony vessels, destroying peaceful settlements, hunting down survivors. "Your empire saw us as a threat," Jiwan continued. "Not because we were violent, but because our ideas were dangerous to imperial control. We believed in cooperation, in equality, in making decisions together rather than following the strongest leader. To an empire built on dominance, these ideas were like poison." Velthar felt uncomfortable. He had been taught that the empire brought order to chaos, civilization to primitive worlds. This version of history did not match what he knew. Imperial records say humans were violent and unstable, that we were bringing peace to a dangerous species. Jiwan smiled sadly. "History is written by those who survive to write it, Commander. The Valorian Empire erased us from their records because, admitting they hunted peaceful refugees, would damage their image as noble conquerors." She led him to a final display showing a small fleet of damaged human ships disappearing into a nebula. "We fled into this nebula cluster and your ancestors assumed we died there. Instead, we found a safe place to rebuild and decided to stay hidden until the galaxy was ready for us." Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Crix was having his own revelation. His guide was a human engineer named Tai Hyung, a young man with an infectious enthusiasm for technology. They stood in a research facility watching robots assemble complex machinery with perfect precision. "Your technology is impossible," Crix said, his mandibles clicking with excitement and confusion. "According to every physical law I know, your power systems should explode. Your shields should collapse. Your ships should tear themselves apart at those speeds." Taehyung laughed. "They should if we used imperial principles of engineering. But we took a different path. When we hid in this nebula, we had limited resources and no room for mistakes. We could not afford to be wasteful like the Empire. Every gram of material, every unit of energy had to be used perfectly." He led Crix to a workbench where a small device hummed softly. "This is a power cell that runs our smaller equipment. It generates the same energy as an Imperial fusion reactor but fits in your hand. It will run for 100 years without refueling. We achieved this not through bigger explosions or more fuel, but through understanding energy at a deeper level than the Empire ever bothered to learn." Crix picked up the device carefully, his compound eyes examining it from every angle. "But why? Why did the Empire not discover these principles? We have the best scientists from 12 species. Because efficiency does not matter when you have unlimited resources," Taehyung explained. "The Empire conquers new worlds whenever they need more materials. They never had to learn to do more with less. Necessity forced us to become better engineers than anyone else in the galaxy." Across the city, Thulmar was having perhaps the most profound experience of all. His guide was a teacher named Yuna who worked at a human academy. She took him to a school where young humans learned everything from mathematics to art to philosophy. Thulmar watched children working together on projects, helping each other learn, sharing their knowledge freely. There were no rankings, No competitions for status. No punishment for those who learned slowly. Every child was valued for their unique abilities. This is different from imperial education, Thulmar observed, his crystalline body chiming thoughtfully. In the Empire, students compete. Only the strongest and smartest advance. The weak are left behind, Yuna nodded. We tried that system once, long ago on Earth. It created societies where most people felt worthless, where only a few at the top had any real power. We learned that a civilization is only as strong as its weakest member. If we lift everyone up, we all benefit. She showed him how humans made decisions through consensus, listening to every voice before acting, how they distributed resources based on need rather than power, how they measured success not by how much one person could accumulate, but by how well everyone lived. But someone must lead, Thulmar said. Someone must have authority. Authority is not the same as dominance, Yuna replied. Chancellor Doyen has authority because people choose to follow him, not because he has the biggest weapons. If he makes poor decisions, he can be removed peacefully. Power comes from the people, not from force. Over the following weeks, the three Valorians experienced more of human society. They ate at communal dining halls where everyone shared food regardless of status. They visited hospitals where the sick received care without payment. They saw factories where workers owned the facilities together and made decisions as a group. They observed courts where justice was about rehabilitation rather than punishment. Belthar struggled the most. Everything he saw contradicted his training. He tried to find cracks in the system, evidence of the control and fear that must surely exist beneath the surface, but he found none. People seemed genuinely happy. Not the forced cheerfulness of imperial propaganda, but real contentment. One evening, Jaiwan took him to a memorial garden. Stone markers listed the names of humans who had died during the flight from Earth 5,000 years ago. Thousands upon thousands of names, each representing someone who gave their life so others could be free. We remember them, Jiwan said quietly. We remember what it cost us to survive. That is why we stayed hidden, Commander. We could have destroyed the Valorian Empire centuries ago. Our weapons are that advanced. But we remembered what it felt like to be hunted, to be afraid, to watch our people die. She turned to look at him. We will not inflict that on others, even our enemies. We waited for the Empire to evolve naturally, to grow beyond violence. Are you ready for that evolution? Belthar had no answer. His mind was at war with itself. Part of him clung to imperial teaching, insisting this was all a trick, a manipulation. But a larger part was beginning to understand that everything he believed was a lie, built on centuries of conquest and control. Then came the day that changed everything. Admiral Minho, the head of human military forces, took all three Valorians to a naval proving ground on the edge of the system. He was a serious man with cold eyes that had seen much combat. Your empire needs to understand something, Minho said as they watched human warships run through exercises. We stayed hidden not from fear but from mercy. Let me show you what we have been holding back. What followed was a demonstration of military power that left the Valorians speechless. Human ships moved so fast they seemed to teleport. They appeared and disappeared using stealth that made them completely invisible to any known sensors. Their weapons could strike targets light years away with perfect accuracy. Most terrifying of all was their coordination. Hundreds of ships moving as one mind without any apparent communication lag. How? Crix whispered, his entire body trembling. How do you coordinate like that? Neural network integration, Minho explained. Our pilots connect to each other and their ships through technology that enhances natural thought without controlling it. Each person maintains their independence while contributing to group awareness. It is cooperation at the speed of thought. He turned to face the three Valorians directly. This is a fraction of our capability. We have weapons that could sterilize imperial worlds without leaving radiation. We have ships that could reach your capital in days. We have technology your scientists would need centuries to understand. He paused, letting this sink in. And we have chosen not to use any of it against you. Do you understand why? Belthar finally spoke, his voice rough with emotion. Because you are better than us. The Empire unearths a lost civilization, where humans still thrive. The stars looked the same as they always did from the bridge of the Dominion's edge. Commander Belthar stood with his clawed hands behind his back, his reptilian eyes scanning the darkness ahead. His ship had been patrolling the outer rim for 3 months now, and they had found nothing but empty space and dead rocks. The Valorian Empire controlled everything worth controlling, or so he thought. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of the engines and the occasional beep from the control panels. Crix, the insectoid science officer, sat at his station with his many legs folded beneath him. His compound eyes reflected the light from his screens as he monitored the ship's sensors. Navigator Thulmar, a being made of living crystal, stood near the viewport, his translucent body glowing faintly with inner light. Suddenly, Crix's antennae twitched. His claws moved rapidly across his console, and a sharp clicking sound came from his mandibles. This was his way of showing excitement or concern. Velthar turned toward him immediately. "Report," the commander said, his voice deep and commanding. "Sir, I am detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. They are coming from the Theta Nebula cluster." Crix replied, his voice high and buzzing. "According to our records, this sector was destroyed by a supernova 6,000 years ago. There should be nothing here but radiation and debris." Velthar's eyes narrowed. His scales shifted from green to a darker shade, showing his interest. "What kind of energy signatures?" "Advanced technology, sir. Power generation on a massive scale. Defensive systems, communication networks. It reads like a fully developed civilization." Crix paused, his antennae drooping slightly. "But that is impossible. Our surveys show this region is dead." Thulmar turned from the viewport, his crystalline form chiming softly as he moved. "Perhaps our surveys were wrong, Commander. The universe is large, and we do not know everything." Velthar snorted, a sound like steam escaping from a valve. "The Valorian Empire has mapped every corner of known space for 3,000 years. We know everything that matters." But even as he said this, curiosity pulled at him. "Set course for the nebula. Full sensor sweep. I want to know what is out there." The ship moved forward, pushing deeper into the colorful clouds of gas and dust. The nebula was beautiful in a way, swirls of purple and blue lit by distant stars. But beauty meant nothing to Velthar. Only power and control mattered. As they traveled deeper, the sensors became more active. Crix's station beeped constantly, and his excitement grew. "Sir, I am detecting multiple planets, 7 in total. 3 of them show signs of habitation. Cities, orbital stations, fleet yards. This is not a small colony. This is a full civilization." "Impossible," Velthar muttered, but his heart was racing now. A new civilization meant new territory for the Empire, new resources, new subjects to bring under Imperial control. "Show me!" The main screen flickered to life, displaying images captured by their long-range scanners. Planets covered in cities that glittered with lights, massive structures orbiting in perfect formations, ships moving between worlds in organized patterns. Whoever lived here was not primitive. They were advanced. Then the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed across the bridge, and every officer snapped to attention. Thulmar's crystalline body pulsed with urgent light. "Commander, we are being targeted. Defensive satellites have activated around the system. They are locking weapons onto us." Velthar's combat instincts took over. "Shields up, charge weapons, identify those satellites." Crix worked frantically at his console. "The technology is unlike anything in our database, sir. It is far more advanced than Imperial standard. These weapons could tear through our shields." Before Velthar could respond, a transmission came through. The communication officer, a slug-like being with multiple eye stalks, turned toward the commander. "Sir, we are receiving a message. Audio and visual. They are broadcasting in Galactic Standard, but with an accent I do not recognize." "Put it on screen," Velthar ordered. The display changed, and a face appeared. It was a human face, something Velthar had only seen in ancient historical archives. Humans were supposed to be extinct, vanished from the galaxy 5,000 years ago. Yet here one was, looking directly at him with calm, intelligent eyes. She was a woman with dark hair tied back in a practical style. Her uniform was simple but clearly military. Her expression showed no fear, only a cool assessment of the situation. When she spoke, her voice was clear and firm. This is Defense Coordinator Hana of the Tewa Republic. You have entered sovereign human territory without authorization. State your purpose immediately. Velthar stared at the screen, his mind struggling to process what he was seeing and hearing. Humans. Alive. Not scattered refugees, but an organized military force. He had been taught that humans died out millennia ago. Their primitive civilization unable to survive in the harsh galaxy. He recovered his composure quickly. Years of Imperial training had taught him never to show weakness. I am Commander Velthar of the Valorian Empire. You claim this space as yours, but according to all galactic law, this sector is unclaimed territory. The Empire has authority over all unclaimed space. You will stand down and prepare for inspection. Hana's expression did not change. She did not look impressed or intimidated. Your Empire's maps are outdated, Commander. The Tewa Republic has claimed this space for 5,000 years. We have simply chosen not to announce our presence to the wider galaxy. That does not make us unclaimed territory. Velthar felt his anger rising. How dare this human speak to him as an equal? The Empire ruled the galaxy. They decided what was claimed and what was not. Your people are extinct. Whatever remnant colony this is, it exists only because the Empire allows it. You will submit to Imperial authority, or you will be brought under control by force. Hana sighed softly, and for a moment, something like disappointment crossed her face. We hoped for better. We have been watching your empire for centuries, Commander. We know your ways. We had hoped that when we finally made contact, you would have evolved beyond threats and conquest. She leaned forward slightly. You have 10 standard minutes to power down your weapons and request asylum, or leave our space. Choose wisely. The transmission ended abruptly. Velthar stood frozen, his mind racing. Around him, the bridge crew looked uncertain. Even the most loyal Imperial officers were unsettled by what they had just witnessed. Crick spoke quietly, his voice unusually serious. Commander, my scans show that their technology is significantly more advanced than ours. If they are hostile, we may not survive an engagement. Silence, Velthar snapped. They are bluffing. A hidden colony of humans cannot possibly challenge the might of the Valorian Empire. We have 200 worlds under our control. We have the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. Thulmar's chiming voice was sad. Pride has destroyed many species, Commander. Perhaps we should listen to the wisdom in her words. But Velthar was not listening. His pride, his training, his entire worldview demanded that he assert Imperial dominance. Charge all weapons. Target their closest satellite. We will show them what it means to threaten the Empire. The weapons officer hesitated for just a moment before following orders. Energy built up in the ship's main cannons. On the screen, the timer that Hana had mentioned continued counting down. 9 minutes, 8 minutes, 7 minutes. Velthar watched the timer with his claws clenched. He was certain the humans would back down. They had to. Everyone always did when faced with Imperial might. But deep in his chest, in a place he did not want to acknowledge, a small seed of doubt began to grow. The stars seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The Empire unearths a lost civilization where humans still thrive. The timer reached 5 minutes, and Velthar could feel the tension on the bridge like a physical weight. His crew worked silently at their stations, preparing for whatever came next. The commander told himself he was doing the right thing. The Empire had never backed down from anyone, and he would not be the first to show weakness. Crick suddenly made a sharp clicking sound, his antennae standing straight up. Commander, 3 new contacts. They just appeared on our sensors. No, not appeared. They decloaked. They were there the entire time, and we could not detect them. The main screen split into multiple views. 3 ships now surrounded the Dominion's edge, 1 on each side and 1 directly above. They were smaller than the Imperial vessel, sleek and dark like hunting predators. Their hulls seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapons ports glowed with a soft blue energy that made Crix's instruments scream warnings. Report, Velthar demanded, though his voice was not as steady as before. Their energy signatures are off the scale, sir. The power generation from each ship exceeds our own by a factor of 5. Their weapons are active but not targeting us yet. They are simply watching. Crix's mandibles clicked nervously. Sir, I strongly recommend we stand down. We cannot win this engagement. Velthar felt rage and fear mixing inside him. How could this be happening? The Empire was supposed to be supreme. These ships, these humans, should not exist. They are trying to intimidate us. It is a bluff. No human technology could be superior to Imperial engineering. Thulmar moved closer, his crystalline body dimming with concern. Commander, please reconsider. There is no shame in tactical retreat. We can return with a full battle group and negotiate from strength. We are already negotiating from strength, Velthar shouted. But even as he said it, he knew it was not true. Those 3 ships held all the power in this situation. The timer continued counting down. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. The communication officer's eye stalks trembled. Sir, incoming transmission from the Human Defense Coordinator again. Hana's face returned to the screen. She looked tired now, disappointed in a way that reminded Velthar of his old training instructor when a student failed repeatedly. Commander Velthar, your time is almost up. I will ask you one final time. Stand down your weapons and accept our offer of asylum or leave our space. There does not need to be violence here today. Velthar's pride would not let him back down. In his mind, accepting her terms meant surrendering, and the Empire never surrendered. You threaten an Imperial vessel with your tricks and expect us to simply obey? I will show you what happens when someone challenges the Valorian Empire. He turned to his weapons officer. Fire a warning shot across their bow. Show them we are not afraid. The weapons officer looked uncertain but followed the order. A bright beam of energy lanced out from the Dominion's edge, passing just above one of the human ships. It was meant to intimidate, to show their firepower without actually causing damage. But something unexpected happened. The human ship did not dodge. It did not even move. The energy beam hit some kind of shield and simply disappeared, absorbed completely without causing any visible effect. Crix made a sound like a gasp, his entire body going rigid. Impossible, the science officer whispered. They absorbed a full-power plasma lance. Our most powerful weapon just vanished against their shields. That technology should not exist. On the screen, Hana closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them, they were hard as stone. You were warned, Commander. We offered you mercy. Now we will show you the price of aggression. The transmission ended. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then one of the human ships moved, so fast that the Dominion's Edge's sensors barely tracked it. A single pulse of blue energy shot out, moving through space like a living thing. It passed through the Imperial vessel's shields as if they were not even there. The lights on the bridge flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in red light. Alarms screamed from every station. The engines made a horrible grinding sound and then fell silent. The ship was dead in space, powerless and drifting. Velthar grabbed his command chair to steady himself. Report, what happened? Crix worked frantically at his console, which was running on backup power. Our main reactor is offline. The weapons are disabled. Life support is on emergency batteries. They hit us with some kind of precision strike that destroyed only our power generation systems. Everything else is intact. The crew is unharmed. The commander felt something he had rarely experienced in his military career. True fear. How is that possible? To disable our reactor without destroying the ship? That would require knowing the exact location and specifications of our power systems. They know everything about our technology, sir, Thulmar said softly. They have been watching us for a long time. Before Velthar could respond, the communication system activated on its own. Hana's voice came through, calm and professional. Commander Velthar, your ship is no longer a threat. We are sending a transport to retrieve you and your crew. You will be taken to our capital world as guests pending diplomatic review. Do not resist. Your life support will fail in approximately 6 hours, and we are the only ones who can help you now. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Velthar felt his world crumbling around him. Everything he believed, everything he had been taught about Imperial supremacy was suddenly in question. How could humans, supposedly extinct primitives, do this to an Imperial warship? A strange craft appeared outside the viewport. It was oval-shaped and moved with a grace that seemed almost alive. A beam of light shot out from it, and Velthar felt a tingling sensation run through his body. The sensation of a transport beam. In his many years of service, he had never been on the receiving end of one. The bridge of the Dominion's edge faded away, replaced by white light. When his vision cleared, Velthar found himself standing in a large chamber with his entire crew. The room was clean and bright, with walls that seemed to glow with their own light. Human soldiers stood around the perimeter, wearing armor that looked both elegant and deadly. They held weapons, but the weapons were pointed at the floor, not at the Valorians. A door opened and several humans entered. Leading them was a man who appeared to be in his 70s with gray hair and kind eyes. He wore simple robes that suggested authority without military decoration. Behind him stood Hana, along with several other humans who looked like advisors or officials. The elderly man stepped forward and spoke in a gentle voice that carried authority without aggression. "I am Chancellor Doyen of the Tewa Republic. You are on our capital world, Sarom. You are not prisoners, Commander Velthar. You are guests, though guests who have arrived under unfortunate circumstances." Velthar wanted to shout, to demand their release, to threaten imperial retaliation, but the words died in his throat. He was powerless here, at the mercy of these humans who should not even exist. Chancellor Doyen seemed to read his thoughts. "I know you have many questions. I know you are confused and perhaps frightened. You have been taught that humans are extinct, that the Valorian Empire is supreme, that resistance to imperial will is futile. All of these things are lies, Commander. We have much to show you." The Chancellor gestured to the guards, who stepped aside, opening a path to large windows that dominated one wall of the chamber. "Come. See what humanity has built in our 5,000 years of isolation." Against his better judgment, Velthar walked to the windows. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. The city below was vast beyond imagination. Buildings reached toward the sky like crystal mountains, surrounded by parks and gardens that made the entire place look like a fusion of nature and technology. Flying vehicles moved in perfect patterns through the air. In the distance, he could see an orbital ring stretching across the horizon, massive beyond belief. "This is just one city on one world," Doyen said quietly. "We have 12 inhabited planets in this system, Commander. Billions of people living in peace and prosperity. We have technology your empire considers impossible. We have resources, knowledge, and most importantly, we have unity built on choice rather than conquest." Velthar turned to face the Chancellor, his mind reeling. Why did you hide? If you have all this power, why did you not reveal yourselves?" Doyen's expression became sad. "Because we remember, Commander. We remember what it cost us to escape Earth 5,000 years ago. We remember being hunted by the early Valorian Empire, because our philosophy of cooperation threatened your philosophy of domination. We remember watching our homeworld die while your ancestors chased our colony ships into the darkness." He paused, his voice heavy with old pain. "We hid because we knew that if we revealed ourselves before your empire was ready, there would be war. And we did not want to become the very thing we fled from." The Chancellor turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at Velthar. "You will stay here for a time. You will see our cities, meet our people, and learn our history. Then you will be given a choice. You can return to your empire with a message of peace, or you can request asylum here. But before you choose, you must understand the truth about us, about your empire, about everything you thought you knew.